This is Brian Blade, and today I'm on Drinkin' and Moe's.
All right, everybody, welcome Drinking at Moe's. The host, Big Mo here. YouTube, make sure, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Plenty of good things coming up, plenty of content. We're on pretty much most of the podcast platforms. Today, I got with me, pretty excited, member of this year's class of the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Brian Blade. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, like I mentioned, I want to, be there the induction night, but those might tend to be a little short. So I wanted to get, a full episode with everybody. So glad we could get this scheduled in.
Sounds good.
So first thing I like to ask each of my guests is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you decided to go ahead and make the jump into the business?
Well, I've been watching wrestling since as long as I can remember. My grandpa started taking me to wrestling matches when I was 3 years old when the AWA was in Omaha. So my dad knew some of those guys too. He used to play cards like Mad Dog Vachon, the J6 guys like that. So
okay.
I just always liked wrestling, always loved wrestling. And even in college, I planned to go to wrestling school, just trying to find the right ones. A friend of mine decided to go before I was ready. I wanted to, my mom would have killed me had I not graduated. So
yeah.
I decided to graduate. Well, I started a business while I was in college, and I figured, well, it's not going to happen. I already started a business. I'm, doing this. And then found out there was a school in Omaha, the Omaha Wrestling Association, run by Maury Swinger, and a guy I knew from the gym. I worked out at, I don't remember what it was called back in that day. One time it was Omaha Athletic Club, and then it switched to something else. Yeah. It might have been 24-hour fitness. I know it wasn't 24-hour fitness at that point, but whatever the offshoot was before that. Guy that's in the Hall of Fame now, Mike Danner. He was a friend of mine from the gym. He kept trying to talk me into it. Max Magnus, a lot of people know him as.
Oh, okay.
Or Max Evil, one of the two.
Yeah.
And he finally talked me into coming down. And the first day I went down and I seen it looked like 30, 40 people in one ring. I'm like, this isn't going to work. I was like, how is this ever going to work? So a couple months later, he talked to me and he's like, come on down again. A lot of guys left, this and that. So I came down and started from there.
All right. One thing I'm always curious about when it comes to my guests, because everybody has their own stories when it comes to when they were first starting training. What was the initial training like? Because some people, I think, underestimate how taxing it can be on a body, just learning the basics even.
Well, I was in pretty good shape when I went in. I wasn't, I worked out all the time. I had a business. I do construction, so I have a physical job. So it's not like I wasn't in cardio shape to do this.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest wake up call wasn't even bumping. It was the ropes. When you hit the ropes, it's like, oh wow, this is for real. This is, this isn't, these things are real. This is cable inside here, and that's the thing that was worse than the bumps was, learning to run the ropes at first. And that was probably running the ropes was probably the thing that took me the longest to learn. I kind of picked up everything else pretty fast. I'd been, not to say, I'd amateur wrestled before. And me and my brother and friends wrestled all the time. And I knew, I don't know, I had a natural instinct to how to do things, I guess. And not everybody has that. I was lucky I had that. I knew how not to hurt people. I could already throw a punch decent. Not knowing a lot of stuff, I knew more than what I knew, and that really helped going in. So, like I said, the toughest thing was running the ropes, because you can't mimic that in your living room or anything else. Unless you have a ring, you can't mimic that.
Yeah. No, I remember Magnum Wrestling, when they did a little boot camp, I'm like, it attracted me. And then it happened to be in the same building that I was, the same hotel the night before I left for boot camp. It was in that same where the Cocoa Keys used to be.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I haven't been in there since. I'm gonna go. And I swear, between the bumps and the running the ropes, I was walking funny for about the rest of that next week.
Yeah, it's different. A lot of guys don't understand that, and that's what gets me. Like MMA guys come in and think that they think this is easy, and they can do it. And, MMA guys don't realize that your body isn't made to jump off, jump into ropes or land on the ground, or in MMA you're getting hit and that's it. And when you're down, you're down. But in here, you got to keep getting back up. No matter how many times you hit the ground, how many times you hit the ropes, you got to keep getting back up.
One thing a lot of people around the area here know you from is with you being behind the MWA. What was it like getting that up and going?
Well, after the OWA fell apart, Austin Storm started, I think he called it NRW. I think something like that. Okay. I think only ran a show or two, and I went to him, was like, "Hey, why don't we try to expand this out?" And just kind of came up. The MWA had been around in the 40s and 50s in the Midwest, in Omaha, Kansas City, Wichita. There was Orville Brown was the original MWA World's Champion, and so we decided, well, let's start that back up, and a name that old school fans would realize, but something new around here. And we decided to go from there and just see what it'd be like, see if we could pull it off. And well, I say we pulled it off pretty well, and we're still going and still kicking. And I mean, we're all over the place. And, it gets tiring and taxing sometimes trying to figure out, okay, how I'm going to promote this in this place. And then the next night I'm, 2 states over or something sometimes. So,
yeah. You guys aren't just in Nebraska. You guys are pretty much all over the Midwest, really.
Yeah, we're in, we do events in Iowa and Kansas and Illinois and Minnesota, Wisconsin. We've done them in Indiana, South Dakota, Colorado. So we've done them in Missouri before. So we've gotten around a little bit.
Yeah, definitely have. And I mean, as of late, you guys have been bringing in some pretty solid talent. I mean, I've seen James Storm has come in, and he's another guy I wouldn't mind talking to. But it's not just local guys you're bringing in. You're bringing in some like nationally known talent here.
Yeah, we're trying to make it, bring some more guys in here and there, try to, which helps, try to help bring in more fans, bring in, guys, people that they see on TV, but also people I've known from the past. I mean, I met a lot of these guys, going through different states years ago when I was, going to Texas and Oklahoma and all over the country. And, now some of these guys are with, say, AEW or with TNA before Impact. And, they know me. They know that, if I ask them to come up, they're going to, they know they're going to be put on a good show. They're going to get paid.
Yeah.
That's one of the main things. I know they're not going to get stiffed in their money. So, so that helps. I've made a lot of contacts over the past 20 years and, that helps out too. And then you just got to, you got to figure out your venue, your audience. You have to decide, will this person draw for me in this place or not?
Yeah.
Some people just bring in a name because they're bringing in a name without, doing the research to say, will they draw? It's like, would I love to bring in, let's say, the Rock and Roll Express to Lincoln? I would. But for the price I would have to pay them, they were never big in Lincoln, Nebraska. They had a little stint in the AWA, but they were never in the WWF. They're not, your smart fans know them, but will the regulars know them? And would they bring anybody extra in? in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, if I do an Illinois show, maybe they bring more people into, say, the Chicago area because, Crockett Promotions ran there. The Rock and Roll Express was there. Plus, it's also a bigger market.
True.
It's just a matter of, do people know who people are? That's the for what it's going to cost you to bring them in.
Oh yeah. No, and you brought up a good point with like Rock and Roll Express, out here, you get like the people like the diehard lifelong professional wrestling fans that they'll know who those guys are, but like just the casual fan that's like, hey, there's a promotion running a show in town. Why don't I take my kids to this? They might not know. So, the odds of them bringing in the big crowd might not be as much as if, you're running in an area where, they used to run all the time.
Right. And it's not like, they haven't been on, they've been on AEW a couple times, but they haven't been on national TV in 30 years.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of those guys, the first episode of this show that I ever did on Zoom was with the SATs, and they actually just recently wrestled those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember where, but I know they were telling me about it. I'm like, oh, damn, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I know this is their final tour, so the Rock and Roll Express. So, would I love to bring them in, love to work with them sometime? Yeah, that'd be great. Before COVID, I was talking to Robert about bringing them into Illinois, and then COVID kind of hit and shut down what we were doing because they were one of the first. We had a date already set up to bring them into Illinois before COVID hit, and then COVID kind of screwed that up, and so in the business that was bringing them in with me, well, COVID kind of closed them. So that really hasn't helped matters either. So
now, is there speaking of bringing in people, is there anybody like off the top of your head that you haven't brought in yet that you're like, you know what, I have a show where I know I can they'll bring in a lot of people?
Honestly, just because of years ago, I would love to bring in Bryan Danielson. We had talked years before he ever made it, WWF big, WWE big.
Yeah.
I don't know what he would charge. The problem, I'd have to have a big enough, and whether or not he's even going to, I don't know if he's even actually doing indie bookings. I know like John Moxley's doing some indie bookings, and they got to be kind of a big deal. You also have to have a big enough venue that you think these guys would bring in. Like the venue I have in Lincoln's a great venue, but without raising ticket prices crazily, I couldn't fit enough people in there to bring in somebody like, somebody like Bryan Danielson, or probably what somebody like John Moxley would want at this point. We were, last year with the shows we were doing in Elgin, Illinois, we were looking into some bigger names. We brought in Eric Bischoff, so he's not. We were trying to talk about even maybe bringing in Chris Jericho, but once we found out a price for that, there's no way we can sell enough tickets for that. We just don't have enough space.
Yeah.
Not that he probably wouldn't have drawn. It's just a matter of, you have to have enough space in these venues to bring them in and to justify. You can only sell a ticket for so much, and you don't want to outprice your normal audience.
Yeah, no, that is true, because like a lot of the guys, I can imagine it's not a matter of if they want to or not. It's, when it comes to, like you said, the pricing of the tickets, I know a lot of promotions, like one that got me started on independent wrestling down in San Diego area. I think this was before Rey Mysterio came back. They actually brought him in, and yeah, the ticket prices were quite steep, but hey, they pulled in a huge crowd for that show.
Mm-hmm.
What are
and it can be done.
Oh yeah. What are some of your? We talked a little bit about some of the current wrestling product. What are some of your opinions on some of the wrestling out there today? Because there's so many choices out there.
Yeah, I watch mainly WWE and AEW. Every now and then I'll catch Impact. I just don't have time to catch anything else.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm taping WWE stuff and AEW stuff, so I can get through the commercials, get through whatever I don't overly care about. There's just not enough. The biggest problem is there's just between those, there's what AEW's got, 3 hours that are just on regular TV. WWE's got 7 hours that are just on regular TV. Impact's got another 2. I mean, you need a full day, one full day out of the week just to watch them, let alone try to add anything else into it. So, I mean, those are the products I try to stay abreast of the most. Every now and then I'll look at some Japanese stuff just because I've always been interested in what goes on in Japan. Especially more bad. When I used to get the, Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, the late 80s, early 90s, I always loved seeing what was going on in New Japan and All Japan and, see what guy went where this week, what guy jumped or whatever, or, what American guy was on tour over there that week or that month. I was always interested in that stuff. So every now and then, I'll still check out some Japanese stuff here and there.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so much on to watch. And, then you got, then the WWE's got a pay-per-view or whatever they call it, premium live events.
Yeah, whatever they call it now.
Yeah, that's once a month. And, AEW's got their pay-per-views every 3 or 4 months. And so trying to expand to watch a whole lot of other product, plus as much as I'm wrestling, it's tough to watch anything else. But, I can watch it as a fan, though. I'm not watching obviously there's some stuff that, I don't like, but I mean, I'm not one of those there's always gonna be something, if you don't like it, that doesn't mean the other, somebody else doesn't, that person might like it. If I like something, you might not like something. You might like something that I don't like. It's just, I think we just live in a time now that people like to complain about it and,
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I think if people would learn to just sit back and just enjoy the show, they'll find they'll have a lot more fun with it. And let me think. With not liking WWE or whatever, somebody else might. If you don't like it, there's literally between, the WWE deal on Peacock, you got AEW on the Turner networks. You got, Impact's got their, what channel are they on now? But they got Impact Plus. You got all the streaming services, IWTV and everything. You can find something every single day of the week. And if you're not finding something you enjoy with all of those choices, you're probably not really a fan to begin with, to be honest.
Yeah. It always gets me, the people that watch WWE week in and week out. You see the same people complaining. I'm like, why do you watch it? Why do you watch it to pick out what's wrong with it?
No,
I separate Brian the fan from Brian the wrestler, or it's I just want to sit back and I want to watch wrestling. Now, I mean, every now and then you'll see something that's horrible and you're like, okay, that was. But I'm not going to pick it apart. I'm not trying to watch it to pick AEW apart. I'm not watching to pick WWE apart. I just want to be entertained. Just give me a show that I'm entertained with, and I don't want to think about, they messed that up or whatever, or that was a horrible angle or whatever. I mean, like you said, every now and then something's so bad that you're like, okay, why? But I'm not watching it to pick that out, though.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some people out there that are just a little too, for the lack of a better term, analytical about it. It's like, they pick every little deal apart, and it's like, dude, just sit back, enjoy the show.
Right.
One promotion in particular that I've become quite a fan of, that I interviewed the promoter, and they actually invited me out to they're doing their first ever show in St. Louis, Warrior Wrestling. And, we talked some about New Japan. They got a handful of New Japan talent on the card. Like, Will Ospreay's their champ. They got a match I'm particularly excited about, Jeff Cobb versus Jonah. That's one I'm excited about. So I'm just excited to go there and be a part of the whole deal.
Yeah, should be a great event. Hopefully they draw fans and can continue, because you said this is their first one they're doing.
The first one in St. Louis.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, they've done shows a lot through like Illinois, Indiana, up into Michigan, and they're slowly starting to get more out this way.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I've watched a handful of their shows, and I'm like, damn, there's a little bit of something for everybody in that product there.
That's good. It's the way it should be. You gotta, when you put on events, in wrestling shows, you gotta have a little, like, everything can't be the same. You have to have, you don't want like 10 comedy matches, but you want something that kind of breaks the tension a little bit. It makes people laugh a little bit. That's more the entertainment side than just, hey, we're beating the crap out of each other all night long.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always good to have a little bit of, diversity in your event, so that, everyone enjoys it.
Yeah. No, that is definitely the best way to go about it. I know one promotion in particular that I've been a fan of that is another good example of that. GCW. They they're known for the death matches, but they also got guys coming in like Jonathan Gresham, Blake Christensen. I might be messing up the name, but they got like the technical guys. They got the luchadors coming in. They got the death match stuff. A little bit of everything, and those are like Warrior and them. Those are the promotions that tend to draw me in quite a bit.
Yeah, right now GCW's got a pretty good formula of what they're doing right now, and they're kind of the hot promotion at the moment, of the hot indie promotion at the moment.
Oh yeah, no, they're doing big things. I know they just announced a handful of shows. I know, what is it? They actually got one coming in St. Louis. I'm like, damn it, if I wasn't already going I can't afford to be flying out there that often.
Flights are not cheap right now.
Yeah, I got lucky. I found a pretty cheap deal on my one that I'm going here in a little over a week. What are some more of the upcoming shows that you guys with the MWA got going? Because I know there's one that you guys have been promoting on social media here, and then there's July. You guys got, I believe I was told July 9th is the show where you guys will also be doing the inductions for the Hall of Fame.
Yep, that'll be the Hall of Fame show. So right now, this coming up weekend, Friday night I'll be in Harrington, Kansas for TAPW. I kind of work with them. Okay. MWA and TAPW work together quite often. Then the MWA is in North Platte on a Saturday night. And then Sunday afternoon, we're in Lexington, Nebraska.
Okay.
June 3rd, we're back in Lincoln, Nebraska. June 25th, we're out in Pennsylvania doing a deal out there working together with another promotion in Pennsylvania for it's for Slam Fest out there. in
Okay.
Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. And then, July 8th, we're going to have an event. We're just working on where that's going to be right now. Then July 9th will be the Hall of Fame. What we're going to do is the Hall of Fame we'll probably have a meet and greet from 4 to 4:30 or 4 to 5. That's what we're working on now. Do the Hall of Fame 5 to 6 or 4:30 to 6, depending on who can all be there. Who's all going to give speeches, who's all, I'm not going to let the cat completely out of the bag, but I mean, there's going to be people, there's a lot of guys that are sending in pre-recorded speeches and such. There's a few guys that'll, from the past that are also going to be sending some in. They'll have some past Hall of Famers will be there. Part of the class of 2022 will be there. So we'll do that. And then our event will start at 7:00 that night at the social hall. So
that'll be a fun time.
Yeah, so probably next week we'll get the details. We'll probably start getting tickets on sale because there'll be a special ticket that people can buy, so they can go to the Hall of Fame and go to the wrestling show all at the same time. Instead of there'll also be separate tickets if somebody wants to just go to the Hall of Fame or just go to the wrestling event too. But we'll have tickets if people want to go to both. So it should be a big deal. Donnie Dodge has done an incredible job with the Hall of Fame there.
Mm-hmm.
And this year he really wanted to kind of make it like a real event to itself, and not just what it's been, where you just kind of announce guys at intermission, let them talk for 2 minutes, and that's it. So he wants to make it, and which it should be. I mean, even the guys in the past, they deserve to have their moment to talk, and have more than just an intermission of another event. But I know the logistics are tough. I mean, it's not always easy to pull it off. I'm lucky enough. I'm in a building that we can pull that off with. And time wise, we can pull it off time wise. So, and it's good. Like I said, Donnie's done such a great job with it. It's a good way to help honor Donnie too for what he's done, to actually give him a real event to do stuff, to get people inducted into the Hall of Fame that way.
Oh yeah, he's done a lot of great things helping promote the history of wrestling in the area, because I think a lot of people around the country really don't think of Nebraska being having a lot of pro wrestling history.
Yeah, there's a lot more than people realize. There's a lot more that I even realized until I started going to a lot of these small towns putting on events. And, there's people, they got posters from 1960s and wrestling coming into the old auditoriums, and and people telling me stories, wrestling hasn't been here since 1970 whatever, or I remember they'll remember a Pesic or a Dusick or Mad Dog Vachon or Baron Von Raschke or Reggie Parks, things like that. So it's always cool. Especially we go to a new town we haven't been to before. There's always that guy somewhere in town's got one of those old posters that you start talking to. He's like, yeah, I remember this and that, and then that's always cool. And then a lot of these towns got these old auditoriums that they used to have events in that a lot of people don't even realize these days.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of great stuff out there if you just go looking. Another thing I like to do, I like to have two different categories. I do a little bit of a speed round, and then I do some like random questions. Speed round, I name off some people, you give me your thoughts on them, and I do a random question thing where random questions, you answer how you see fit.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, speed round, I kind of like to tailor it to the guests somewhat, and since you're heavily involved with promoting, I figured we'll go with this. First off, Vince McMahon.
Genius.
Yep. A lot of
no matter what anyone says, that man is a billionaire. He started with the Northeast Territory and pretty much owns the world right now.
Yeah. And I've been guilty of it. A lot of people give him a lot of crap, but when you really sit down and think about it, for that man to have the wealth that he has, and to be as successful as they've been, he's had to have done something right.
Yeah, he's he figured it out, and I think a lot of people don't give him the credit that he deserves for somebody. They don't think he was a wrestler. He was in the wrestling. Well, he grew up in the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was, if you think about it, the way his dad was respected, he was kind of the premier promoter in the 60s and the 70s. You can argue maybe Vern Gagne was just because he had the biggest territory, but was anybody more successful or made more money than Vince McMahon Sr.? I don't think so. So, I mean, he was always around that, and, he bought it, and, and look at it now. You can say he's out of touch or whatever, but you know what? They're bringing in record revenue no matter what. So
yeah,
doing something right.
That is true. Another guy, this next guy, we mentioned him a little bit, Eric Bischoff.
Great guy. Actually, great guy to be around. Nice guy. I think he's a genius too. I think he got a raw deal in WCW. I think after the merger, and what people don't realize is he couldn't do what he needed to do to continue the business the way it needed to be continued. You basically cut his legs out from underneath him. And a lot of people don't realize that. I think he was the one that, that caused WCW to fail. And I mean, I've talked to tons of guys about it, and I've talked to him about it. I mean, obviously his story is going to be one thing, but I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys, read books on it. I mean, his legs were cut out from underneath of him. And no matter what he did at that point, Time Warner didn't want wrestling, and it wouldn't have mattered who was running it. Vince McMahon could have been in charge at that point, and he'd have been screwed. Yeah. So, and the fact that he couldn't take WCW to another channel, which was one of his plans.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't allow it because it was their property. They were just going to pretty much kill it or sell it off. And what they did, sold it off. Eric didn't have a chance once that happened. It really didn't matter. He didn't have a real chance. But for what he did to turn WCW into what it became with Nitro and Thunder was a big mistake, but I watched it anyway. You listen to him. Thunder was they just weren't ready to have two shows, but for what he did was amazing. I mean, he pushed Vince McMahon, the WWF, to the brink. Mm-hmm. And who would ever thought anybody could have done that?
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, you listen to his podcast, 83 Weeks. He's gone into a lot of detail on all that and how Turner kind of pushed the whole Thunder thing and like, oh, we got to get this, and there was like money that had been earmarked for different things, and all of a sudden, nope, they're not getting that anymore. And and
there was no revenue for him. There was no TV revenue. It was it's not like SmackDown, where SmackDown got TV revenue. You could have you're making another show off the revenue you already had, not getting anything back from it outside of what the gate was at the house, and that's not paying for a show, not at that point.
And like you said, you gotta give him the credit, because WCW, before he took the reins, was definitely tanky. And then
it wasn't good. I mean, when you got houses that are under 500 people for a major company in towns that you're a staple in, that's bad.
Yep. And then he was able to get Turner backing and he basically can be credited for just starting the whole Monday Night War, because he brought in Nitro and it became the success that it was for as long as it was a success.
Right. And because of him, and I mean, honestly, because of him and challenging Vince, I mean, wrestling was never more popular. Everyone watched wrestling in the 90s at that point. In the late 90s, everyone watched wrestling. Wrestling was the coolest thing in the world at that point. Mm-hmm. Everybody had a Stone Cold shirt or an NWO shirt or a Hollywood Hogan shirt. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was, I mean, everyone watched. It seemed like they watched wrestling, especially on Monday nights. I mean, it was never more popular and it'll never be that popular again.
Yep. And kind of going back to a little bit of the current product, like I've heard people say, it might not be as popular as it was back in, the 90s, the Attitude Era, which, probably never will be, but, today it's probably about as healthy as it's been since that.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of indie promotions that are doing good. I mean, I don't know what people consider good for AEW. Is a million viewers good? I don't know. Not by 1997, 98 standards, no. But AEW does a million, WWE SmackDown does 2 million, Raw does what, 1,600,000, 1,700,000, somewhere in there most weeks. It's not by that standard, but people are watching. People, I mean, if you look at the arenas, AEW is doing fine. In arenas, WWE. I mean, last night it looked like it was sold out.
Yeah.
From all the camera angles they had. Independent wrestling is flourishing. MLW, places like that, GCW.
Oh yeah.
They're all. I mean, people are doing. Wrestling's doing well right now. Like I said, I don't know if it's as. I couldn't tell you an indie promotion from the 90s because I didn't know there was indie pro wrestling up until I started wrestling, to be honest with you. So,
yeah,
I don't know what indie pro wrestling was like, but, wrestling's pretty strong right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. And damn, I lost my train of thought there. But the way I like to think about it when it comes to, before we get to the next person, when it comes to AEW, people talk about the ratings and this and that. And the way I like to describe it is you look at the crowds at an AEW show and everybody from like the first match all the way to the end, they just look like they are just having the time of their life. And like you see, even now, when Jericho's music hits, everybody's singing that damn shit. And you're like, I know, at least for me, I'm like, man, I want to be there, be in the middle
It's got that Nitro vibe to it. When Nitro was really going strong, that, it's kind of got that Nitro vibe to it that that's how I feel anyway.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, I can see that. All right, next one. Another wrestler promoter, Jeff Jarrett.
I like Jeff. I've talked to him on a few occasions. Good guy, nice guy. I think he had great ideas. I just don't know if he knew how to completely execute them. I don't know how much his dad got in the way either. The TNA concept to start with, I don't know if pay-per-views would have been viable every week. I'll admit I bought a couple here and there, but I wasn't going to buy them every week.
Yeah.
But I mean, the concept of thinking of $10 a week isn't bad when you consider, if you think about it, especially back when he first started, but when his dad was really booking Memphis or even the territories before, there was a lot of territories that were weekly territories. Yeah. So you'd pay your, tickets for $7-8 probably, $5, $7, $8, whatever a week, but you'd show up every week. And I think that's the model they were thinking is like, hey, $10, we're giving you 2 hours, of wrestling every week, people will buy it. And I think people, bought it at first, but then over time, especially it being, I think, was it initially Wednesday night? I think it was initially Wednesday nights.
I'm one to say so.
And sometimes that gets tough during the week. People have work, kids got school, kids, if you have kids, you've got, you got ball games and dance and things like that. Your kids got school functions and sports and, okay, is this one really worth $10 tonight? Or, I mean, I can look on the internet tomorrow and know the results.
Yeah.
I think he had great ideas, though. I don't think they could be followed through completely. And then the merger with Dixie and Panda Energy, I think that took some steam out of him.
Yeah.
but it needed to be done because there was no way they were going to keep going at the pay-per-view level, and they had to get a TV deal and such.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like I said, I think Jarrett's got great ideas. Just not always being able to follow through. Being the son of a promoter and of a booker. Yeah. He had ideas. He's seen some things that worked, some things that didn't, and who knows though. And I listen to his podcast a lot, quite a bit, and his dad has some crazy ideas too, and had some really good ideas. But I mean, I guess in the world of wrestling, everyone's got crazy ideas, and they're not so crazy if they hit. If they miss, it's like, well, why in the world did you do that stupid thing? So I mean, he tried, and Jarrett works hard, and he knows how to promote himself nowadays, and he's got the podcast, and he's out making money, and he really does know the wrestling business well. It's just what he tried to do just didn't completely work, and I don't think that's completely his fault.
No, he, like you said, he had a lot of great ideas. A lot of them are with like Impact are still being used, and there's just sometimes where the execution of it was maybe a little wonky.
Right.
But hey, he gave it a shot, and hey, all the credit to him. Next guy, Tony Khan.
Still trying to figure out what to make of him. I wish he'd shut up on Twitter about ratings and things like that. Just shut up. Just promote. You don't see Vince McMahon on Twitter saying that. Like, I feel like he's the Donald Trump of wrestling is Tony Khan, even though he's probably a Democrat, be my best guess. But he's like the Tony Khan. He's like Tony Khan is like Donald Trump in the presidency. Just shut up sometimes. You don't always have to tell us what you're thinking. We don't always need to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes just shut up. He's got, I think he's got a good thing that can really keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he's going to get in his own way.
Yeah. Nope. I can see where you're going with that. Yeah. He sometimes needs to learn when to just stay off the Twitter machine. He puts on a great product. Nobody can fault him there. But, sometimes you just need to just sit back and, people are going to say shit. You're going to have shit talkers. You're going to have people that are just.
Yeah, there's always going to be that.
There's always going to be that. So and it can be a little easier said than done sometimes. But, sometimes you just need to let the assholes be assholes.
Right. You don't always have to respond to just stupid stuff. And you don't always have to say, oh, we won the ratings between the 18 and 45-year-olds this week over Monday Night Raw. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, maybe your advertisers do, but here's the deal. Vince McMahon has got a $500 million television deal, and you do not. And I don't care what anybody says. That man's hemorrhaging money.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is the same right now as what TNA was. It's a tax write-off like it was for Panda Energy. It's a tax write-off for Tony and his dad. I mean, with those contracts and not running house shows, and you only got 3 pay-per-views or 4 pay-per-views a year, and you're just running TV, there's no way in the world he's making any money at this point, which is fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years to start turning a profit.
Yeah.
But for those people, there's people, oh, he's making millions. The numbers don't add up. None of the numbers add up. If you just do a little bit of digging, the numbers do not add up to anything because their TV deal is next to nothing in TV dollars.
Yeah. No.
So, but, he's got a good thing going. He just needs to not get in his own way and maybe just kind of – he can't be the booker for that, for everything they're doing, and then try to be the booker for Ring of Honor. As a separate promotion. He just can't do it. One, I don't care how big a wrestling fan he was growing up. We're all big wrestling fans growing up and think we all can book everything in the world right. Mm-hmm. But you can't. You can only spread yourself so thin. You can, and you got to be able to listen to other people. And obviously, like the Cody situation, obviously something wasn't clicking there.
Yeah. And there's that whole saying about if you those that don't learn from history are going to be doomed to repeat it. That meaning if he doesn't learn to start delegating, especially with, things shaping up with the Ring of Honor, we're going to have another Paul Heyman burnout.
Right.
With how ECW went.
That's the other thing I hate about AEW right now. The only thing I really hate is like everyone's got a belt. They bring in everyone's belts from all over the place. Like if you don't have a belt, there's something wrong with you. It seems like everyone's got a belt from somewhere, from some company that they're bringing in. It's just like, if you don't have a belt, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have a belt? Like everybody else seems to. It's like they're just, it's great if you collaborate with other companies, but you don't always have to bring everyone's belt into the thing because it's your company. Your belts should be the important ones.
Yeah.
Not everybody else's.
I can agree with you there. And, hopefully things shape up and Ring of Honor gets their own separate thing so they can, not.
So there's not 3 extra Ring of Honor championships and 4 extra ones because it's a women's champion too.
No, yeah.
And there's a AAA tag titles, and it's like, come on, like.
Yeah, no, I can agree. Hopefully.
And now they're starting a trios championship. It's like,
oh yeah, they're talking about getting that going.
Like, how many belts do you need? And just because you have a 6-man tag once a week doesn't mean you have to have 6-man tag champions. It just.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you. Me personally, when it comes to that, I'm hoping if they are indeed bringing them in, that they wait until after the whole Ring of Honor TV deal gets going.
Agreed.
So that way, the Ring of Honor stuff can, be there, and you can have the AEW stuff where you're going to bring in the 6-man titles. You can have that there. So that way, stuff is separated.
Yeah, that's my hope is they keep it separated. You guys are bringing like in a way like Raw and SmackDown. Not so much now, but now Raw's here, SmackDown's there, Ring of Honor's here, AEW's here, and maybe you bring them together once a year like a Survivor Series. That you have one pay-per-view a year. Otherwise, Ring of Honor has their 1 or 2 pay-per-views a year. AEW has their 3 or 4 pay-per-views a year, and that's it. Because at times it just gets to be like that guy's a champion too. It's like everyone's. It gets to be where like it almost makes all the titles because everyone seems to have one unimportant at times.
Yeah, I can agree with you there, and that's the one thing I know at times how it got with WWE when they had all the titles and they just started unifying titles because there was just so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to the random question round here. Craziest thing you've ever done in a match?
Jumped off a balcony a couple times.
Okay.
Jumped off a couple balconies. One in Holdridge, Nebraska. One in Sioux City, Iowa at the old Sioux City Arena.
Okay. That's pretty crazy. Favorite food?
Probably steak. Probably a good ribeye.
Oh, yeah, right up my alley there. I know my wife and I love going to that Around the Bend. That's like that's our spot, and we're glad they got their kitchen remodel done and are back up and running.
Haven't been there in a long time. I need to get back there.
Oh yeah, we like to go there every so often. I know we got our anniversary coming up, so we'll probably end up heading over there for that.
Well, it's a good time for that.
Oh yeah. All right. Most annoying part about running shows?
Getting sponsors.
Okay.
Because it's just, sometimes you're cold calling people and, since we do it in so many places, you know, like Lincoln's not such a big deal most of the time. You know, trying to get new sponsors sometimes is, but when you're going to a town you haven't been to and you're trying to like, hey, we're coming with pro wrestling, and you know, people have no idea what you're talking about or why you're doing it, or they think you're scamming them. That's because when you're, you know, I'm cold calling like anybody else is cold calling for whatever, you know. So, you know, I've got to prove to these people, hey, I'm not stealing your money. You don't give me any money until, you know, I show you, I come in with posters, things like that. But
yeah,
I would say overall, that's the hardest and most annoying part of promoting shows.
I can understand that. Favorite thing to do on a day off?
Oh, I would just watch football on days I'm not doing anything. Just watch football if I can.
Okay. I know me, you know, around here, you know, Huskers, my big into football. I've always have been. I know at least on my dad's side, we've had season tickets to Husker football since like they started selling season tickets, like when the sellout streak started. And when my dad's uncle, who had the seats were originally his, when his health started fading, did whatever legal paperwork they have to do, passed them along to my dad, and now him and one of his brothers split the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we still, the entire sellout streak now, have had season tickets in the family.
That's cool. Hopefully they can keep the sellout streak up, because another season like last year, I don't know. I don't think they'll have another season like last year, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in that either at this moment after watching last year.
Yeah.
And the year before.
My
faith is dwindling.
Yeah. It definitely becomes hard to watch at times, but I still just have this gut feeling that it's like, I don't know if the sellout streak is really in jeopardy because of how in demand those tickets are. It's like, if you can't go and you want to sell tickets, you can just put on a quick post on social media like, okay, I want them.
Right.
So
I just mean that, you know, if another year where they're 3-9 or something, or you know, you're playing another team, let's say I can't remember who they're playing next year, but like coming up, you got another North Dakota type team coming in next, you know, the next year after that. You know, it's one of those, do we schedule our wedding that weekend now? You know, people are thinking, yeah, that's a weekend we can schedule our wedding. It's just, you know, North Dakota or whatever random, you know, FCS team it is. And
oh yeah, those first couple of games that are usually the air quotes throwaway games.
I'm all for 3 of those. Forget scheduling anybody good. Get 3 of those and get 3 wins and move on. I could care less anymore if they play anybody good in those 3 games. Just get 3 wins and let's go to the Big Ten and go from there.
Oh,
like back in the late '80s or whatever, when they're playing, you know, Utah State and Colorado State, and, you know, Northern Illinois, where they have some of those bad schedules people are complaining about. I'm fine with that now. I'd be fine with that. Just get 3 wins and then go to the Big Ten and maybe have some confidence.
Oh yeah, get back to the way we all know and love them. All right, so that is about all I have. I want to give you a chance. Where can people find you? You know, social media, that sort of stuff.
Brian Blade on Facebook. Don't go to the jazz musician. Go to me, Brian Blade. We look a little different. YouTube, I'm under Brian Blade also. Don't go to the jazz musician there, because we both pretty much have the same accounts on both of them. Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Real Brian Blade. I even got TikTok now, which is Real Brian Blade 1. So I just kind of started that up. I'm just kind of putting some match clips on there. Who knows what else I'll do on there? I'm debating what else I want to do with that. I'll put match clips and stuff on there. Some match clips and a couple promos up there now. But we'll see where that goes, if that goes anywhere or not. But we'll try the extra social media stuff and see what happens.
Yeah, I got a TikTok myself that mostly comedy stuff on there. A little wrestling sprinkled in, but mostly comedy stuff.
Yeah, it's all you never know. You never know when that one thing is going to hit it big, and all of a sudden people love you. All of a sudden you got a billion followers up to something just random or just dumb, and so
No,
you never know.
I had a few of those. I'm at about pretty close to 9,000 followers on there now.
Oh, that's cool. That's good.
But yeah, like I said, that's about all I have for today. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I will on when the YouTube one comes up, I will have links in the description box where people can go find the social media accounts and tickets to some upcoming shows.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.